What's going on, YouTube world? Welcome back to Little Bit Man Gaming, bringing you another review for WandaVision Episode 8 called Previously On, which is again itself a nod to the many ways of sitcoms, when something comes on, they be like previously on, But even for WandaVision does it when it comes to say previously on WandaVision. But first things first, if you can hit that like, subscribe, share, and the notification button, greatly appreciate it. Also, if you could leave a comment down below about if you like the video, the episode, what you like about the episode, what you didn't like, let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. We also got a goal of 100 subscribers, so those who are subscribed, appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. Just share, share, share. And those who are not subscribed, subscribe. I see you. YouTube tells me. With that being said, let's get into it. So first thing first, like I always do, let me give you a synopsis. It says, Wanda embarks on a troubling journey, revisiting her past for insight into her present and future. So what they mean by that is basically in this episode, Wanda has to figure out how basically WandaVision came to be, how all this happened. We get to see she has to go from past to present because for some reason she can't remember because she locked herself inside WandaVision, so it kind of messed up with her memory. She couldn't remember how she got there or how all of it started. Last thing she can remember is that she was just in the show with Vision. But now we get the full story of how it came to be. So the episode actually starts off the episode gives you three things. It says three things: the Scarlet Witch moniker and how she's going to actually go by the name Scarlet Witch, and it gives you the origin story for Wanda and kind of sort of origin story for Agatha Harkness. So, and that's where this episode starts. It starts with Agatha first. We get to see her in the Salem witch trials back in the 1600s. And for those who don't know, Agatha Harkness is a witch in the comic books. Anyway, she's a witch that she's like a good character. She's not really so much evil, because if you look at the comics or just even Google her history, you will see that she's not really evil. But here in the MCU, she's been portrayed as an evil witch. So for the MCU version of her, she's just basically evil, and I think they're doing that because she had done some evil things or evil-like things, but then you found out later on it wasn't her being evil, it was her trying to protect, the Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm's child, and just came across as evil to people who didn't know. But Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm, Reed Richards and Sue Storm, they actually thanked her for what she did because they realized it wasn't evil at all. She was just being precautious and protective because of what she went through. And but to the credit of the directors and stuff, for the most part, she's still, her backstory in WandaVision is pretty much still on par with the comic books. She's an ancient witch. She's been living since the 1600s, so they got that correct. She's still the Agatha for the comics that have been living since the 1600s thanks to magic. And but like I said, they just tweaked it a little bit to make her more evil than she was portrayed in the comics. But yeah, you get to see how she basically was how they said they like to burn the witch at the stake. But in this iteration, instead of a group of human people taking her to the stake, it was her own coven of witches taking her to the stake because they found out she was practicing dark magic. And the coven is led by her mother, and she's pleading with them to basically not do what they're getting ready to do because it's not her fault. She couldn't control her magic. She didn't mean to do dark magic, and that she could be good. She's asking, for forgiveness and a chance. But they're so hard and wired to their ways, they won't give her a chance. And even her own mother tells her that no, you can't be good. She's like, please, Mom, I could be good. And she's like, no, you can't be. And she even tries to finish the spell to look like it was to kill her or to drain her powers, but it backfires because when the other coven witches do it first before the mother, It's like they zap her with this magic spell. And it looks like it's hurting her. But then her own dark magic, like it's, instead of hurting her, it starts seeping out of her body. At first, it looked like maybe they was drawing it out of her, and doing so was killing her. But then it really, instead of it being that, it was actually coming out to protect her, and was siphoning the magic and the life force from the witches that were trying to kill her into Agatha. So instead of hurting Agatha, it was just basically making her stronger. And she ended up sucking the life out of them to almost where they were like same song style. They was turning into skin, bones, and skeletons almost. And she bet her mother, who's I guess supposed to be the stronger witch of the coven, obviously, since she's the leader. She joins in on the spell and tries to finish it. And that's when she asks her mother. She pleads with her mother, "Please, I could be good. Don't do this." And she said, "No, you can't." And then she tries to finish the spell and kill her own daughter. To which the same thing that happened to the other witches happened to her mother. She began to siphon the magic and life force of her mother into herself. And knowing that her own mother wouldn't even give her a chance to try to kill her, this time, instead of it happening on accident, she purposely controls it and purposely sucks the life out of her own mom until she's nothing but a withered husk of her former self. But it stops there. It doesn't show nothing more after that. It just stops there to the point where now it cuts to the present, back to into that little layer she got underneath the house, taunting Wanda. And she's asking Wanda, basically she wants to know how did Wanda, she introduces herself, how she's, about her magic and everything. She shows her magic and how she did things, and that she tells Wanda that she's not all of what's happening in WandaVision is not just her. It's mostly Wanda, but she's kind of helped it along. And we found out that her motivation was that she was so intrigued by the power of the magic and how Wanda did it. The reason why she was there and the reason why she was trying to help it along was she was trying to break the hold of it on Wanda so Wanda could return back to her normal self so she could ask Wanda how she did it. So that's why she was being patient and being her friend and try to be this, like she was a part of it and try to help her. But in all actuality, that's not what happened, and it's still unclear whether Wanda or Agatha is the people in control of, or they are the ones in control of the people of Westview. But it's pretty much either Agatha or Wanda at this point who is controlling the residents of Westview. We are showed things that some things that we seen early on in the show is not what they appear to be. At least that's what I'm taking away from the episode. Like how Hayward said that Wanda came and took the Vision's body. We see something very different happen, and we also see how Vision was created or brought back. I should say, and we also found out that it is one of my only critiques of the episode is that we find out not from Wanda, but we find out through a flashback. Well, let me get to that point. But yeah, so after Agatha is basically interrogating Wanda, but Wanda doesn't know how all of it started. She can't remember. So Agatha does a spell using a piece of Wanda's hair to basically go back into her memories from start to now to see what led her to WandaVision. And what you get is it starts off with her as a child, and we understand why. Now we understand the whole question about. Remember in the early episodes, the dude from Ant-Man was writing down why sitcoms. Now we know why sitcoms, because Wanda and her family was very poor, and for the first time we get to see the father and mother Maximoff, and unlike because of the whole they can't be mutants. Instead of the father being Magneto, it was just a regular average Joe man and woman who was Wanda's and Pietro's father, but they still had the name Maximoff. And they basically, Wanda was the one, Pietro, not so much Pietro, because he really was like annoyed by it, but Wanda was the one who loved sitcoms, and obviously by now you probably guessed it was partly because of Wanda's love for sitcoms, but now we are shown that her father was always selling DVDs and stuff of sitcoms, or not just like I Love Lucy, Malcolm in the Middle, Modern Family. He had all this stuff trying to sell stuff to try to make trying to make money. And Wanda's the Dick Van Dyke Show was Wanda's favorite show. So that's what they started off with, and we see that's what when Wanda was telling Tony Stark how it happened, or not Tony but Ultron, how they hatred for Tony Stark happened was when they said a bomb hit and they waited 2 days for Tony Stark's missile to kill them, and we finally see that play out. We see the Maximoff sitting down watching the Dick Van Dyke Show, and as they watch it, the bomb hits and explodes, and basically kills the Maximoff and knocks unconscious the Wanda and Pietro, but it kills the parents. And then you see that from there we see the infamous Tony Stark missile that Wanda and Pietro was talking about in Age of Ultron. And we found out that the reason why it never went off because it was a dud, it was defective, and that's why it never went off and killed them. And then we move on to different points of her life. We went from that point to her being experimented on by Hydra, and we get an insight to her. This is the insight to her powers, because her powers are not what they seem. Because we was led to believe that Wanda's powers came from the Loki staff, but it might not have been, or it might have been. The episode wasn't very clear. The episode wasn't very clear whether or not Wanda already had powers, or the stone, the Mind Stone gave her powers. But either way, we see what happened with her with the power, with the Mind Stone. What we see in the episode with the Mind Stone, the people who experimented didn't see it. All they saw was her walk into the room, look at the Mind Stone, and she fainted. And then she was fainting. But they said they don't know what happened. It was just like a surge. But what we see is like a surge of power showing her. And it was like a surge of power going into her mind, showing her future. And her future, it was a nice little touch in the future. Instead of showing her like bits and pieces of the future, like the battle with Ultron and Thanos and all that, it just shows her as and showing her future. It showed her in the modified version of her current costume that she wore in Infinity War and Endgame, when she helped fight Thanos in Endgame. It's like a modified version of that, but with her actual helmet. So it looked like it's signifying that in some way, shape, or form, maybe even by the end of this little mini series, Wanda will have at least a MCU version of her traditional costume, complete with the headgear. Because it showed that when the Mind Stone first interacted with her, it showed her that she will eventually have that costume and become the Scarlet Witch. And that was set up number 1 of 2 in this episode that's going to prove to her, or that's going to set her up to become the Scarlet Witch. So then after they took her after they went from her being a kid to her being experimented on Hydra, we get to see like what it looks like her first couple of days at the Avengers compound. And Agatha is the reason why we on these missions, because she wants to know desperately how Wanda created Westview. And by the time we get to where she's in the Avengers compound, Agatha tells Wanda that she got an idea, but she needs a little bit more information. So they revisit the whole Avenger compound It looked like it was right before Civil War. It's like she was just getting ready to stay there. It was like right after, sometime after Age of Ultron, but before Civil War, that they was there. And Wanda and Vision shared like a tender moment, and Vision tried to comfort her because she's still like basically distraught and sad over her brother's death. And she asked him like, "What could only thing that could comfort me is seeing him again." She kind of like snaps at Vision, but then she apologized because Vision was just there to try to help her and understand and console her. And she felt like a wave of darkness was overflowing her, taking over her because of her sadness for the death of her brother. But Vision pulled her up from the darkness. So we see that this is what started a bond. This set the road for Wanda and Vision to become a couple. And then we cut to Wanda cut after Endgame, after Endgame, because this was after the battle with Thanos and everything. We see Wanda looking for Vision, and we actually get a story about it after the whole battle with Thanos and Endgame and everything was done. It says she went to go look for Vision because she said when she came back for being blipped away, Vision's body wasn't where it was when she disappeared. She just came back and his body was there, and we found out it was because during the 5 years she was gone, her body was picked up by SWORD agents. It was it's been at the SWORD facility the whole time, even when she came back. So we see her visit the SWORD facility to recover the Vision's body. And what happened while she's there, because I'm going to leave this part vague, but what happened while she's there is, I would say, is different from what Hayward sold us in the earlier episodes. Because it couldn't be what he sold us, because what we see in this episode contrasts what he sold. He sold us one thing. This episode sold us what I think really happened. And so basically, she's there to give Vision's body, to give him a funeral so she could say goodbye to him. He doesn't let her take Vision's body. He doesn't let her take Vision's body. He doesn't. It's almost like he was reluctant to. Like he could have just did it, but he didn't want to. And then we cut to Wanda going to. Well, I'm cutting to it because I don't want to tell you no more about that scene. But they just say, like I said, things didn't happen the way we seen them. But we cut to Wanda going to the car, and presumably saying goodbye to Vision. And she has a note from Vision showing her this is how she came to Westview. Vision was going to have a house built for them in Westview, New Jersey. And when she gets there, it's an empty lot. The house because of him, dying thanks to Thanos, he never got the chance to help to get it completely built. They just had started the foundation for it. But then it was that they left it at that, just an empty lot with a little foundation, with a little note that's saying for us to grow old and for Vision. Wanda breaks down in tears and sadness, and releases a massive amount of energy wave, massive amount, and not only does this energy wave is not what creates the little hexagon barrier, is what creates the house at first, and then she released an even bigger wave, and that's what creates the barrier, and and that's where we start off in the black and white 1950s, 1940s, era style TV show, the Dick Van Dyke Light show. That's when they started out with the Dick Van Dyke show, and we start off there. That's how we get there. And then we get the shot from one of the trailers where Wanda, it was like something was coming out of Wanda and she was bending backwards. And Vision was coming out of her. They showed Vision like coming out of her. And it looks like he was coming out of her. It was something like that, but her powers, it was like her powers had this little massive waves he did contributed to Vision, basically. And what it did was it gave her the vision that we see in the first episode from the Dick Van Dyke style vision, and we get to see that then we cut back to the present where with Agatha, and she finally figures out what happened, and what she figures out is that Wanda is some type of powerful witch that, because of her grief or loss, starting from when her parents were killed, and then watching Vision losing her brother, watching Vision getting killed twice, first by her own hands, then by Thanos, and now up to here, strengthen her abilities to pass to where we previously thought. Because previously we thought she only could get in your head and just make you see stuff, but now we realize she's a lot more stronger than she realized, because even Hayward, I forgot to mention that, Hayward even mentions to her that she has the ability to bring Vision back. Not only does she have the ability to kill Vision, she can actually bring Vision back, and she didn't even know that. He accused her. That's why she was there. She said, "No, I can't do that, and that's not even why I'm here." She said, "I'm here to get Vision. I want to have a funeral. I want to say goodbye." That's one of my little nitpicks, but I get into why. But yeah, then Agatha reveals her true form, reveals that she has her kids captive, and this is the setup for for the Scarlet Witch 2. Or I should say, this is part 2 of the setup for her using the name Scarlet Witch. Agatha tells her that at the end of the episode that she figured out why she's the anomaly, the legend among witches that said one day a witch would be born with this type of power. And she said what Wanda's power is, and the reason why she's that strong is because she got chaos power or chaos magic, and that she's the legend among witches called the Scarlet Witch. And the legend, the Scarlet Witch has the ability that Wanda pretty much has and does, and so up until this point. And then that's cut. Once she says that, it cuts to the credits. That's the end of that. So that's the setup for her using the name. That's the part 2, which is most likely going to be the reason how she's going to go by the name Scarlet Witch. There is the end credit scene. That I won't tell you what it is, but just like in episode 7, both episode 7 and episode 8 both had end credit scenes, and this one has something. This one is just as good as the other one. But yeah, I won't tell you what the end credit scene is, but there is an end credit scene. But I will tell you who was in it. Is Hayward. It has something to do with Hayward and his dubious plans. But yeah, if I would have to grade this episode, I would give it a solid 8, because it was very intriguing to see the backstory of Wanda, Agatha, and finally most of the questions answered to why and how we got here. The only nitpick I would have is the fact that how did Hayward know that she was strong enough to bring Vision back, and she didn't even know she was that strong to do something like that? Because I think that's what the idea came from, because of Hayward telling her that. And it's like that's what they try to say in the episode. That's where she got the idea from. It's because Hayward told her that, because he assumed that's why she was there, to get him back, to bring him back, because she got the ability to, but she didn't even know. Also, my other nitpick is that we didn't see what happened to Monica. We don't have nothing, not even an inkling of what happened to Monica. They just basically it was just mostly about Agatha, Wanda, and how we got there, and no Monica, no nothing. But it was just a minor nitpick, but not a major one, because I still enjoyed the episode. The episode was still good. Yeah, and I'm gonna keep watching. It's good. Also, I did not realize that, because the episode 7 was like, most of the episodes were like 38. It would look like it was 38 minutes, but episode 8 was actually 47 minutes. But yeah, that's it. Let me know what you think of the show in the comments down below. And if you liked it, didn't like it, let me know. Until the next video, peace.